All right, good morning, everybody. Today is 5.3. This is one of my personal favorite topics, actually. So, hope I do it justice. There's a few patterns and trends about evolution I want to talk about that are not explicit in the learning objectives. And these kind of come from the book called Your Inner Fish. I read this book years ago when I first started teaching, actually. And it kind of is a archaeologist turned geneticist turned scientist, and so he does a really good job kind of going through like the connection between genetics and fossils and evolution. So there's one major pattern in evolution, and that is basically you have two tracks. You have a gut, or you have a large brain. Think about humans, right? We have a really big brain. It's wrinkly. We what do we eat? We eat chicken. We eat chicken. We eat beef. We eat fish. We eat tofu. We cook. We farm. A good way, a good way to think about this is that about mushrooms, right? Like, nothing, very few things eat mushrooms because mushrooms are poisonous. So we have a brain to tell us, hey, you know what? Let's try this mushroom. Let's try this berry. Let's eat a little bit. Let's wait. Okay, right? My stomach is okay. I can keep eating that berry. So we have this brain to figure things out. So everything took this evolutionary path. We started watching a video in class called The True Facts About Mammals, and we didn't quite finish it, but go home and watch it again. It's really important to know this because look, you have examples like a koala bear. A koala bear versus a human, right? A koala bear eats one thing. We eat many. Its brain, the koala bear's brain is smooth. Our brain is wrinkly all over. We have a wrinkly brain. Their brain is smooth. Koala bears have the smallest, so they have the smallest brain to body mass ratio of any mammal. And humans have the largest brain to body mass ratio of any mammal, right? We have a very complex brain. Koala bears have a very complex gut. Koala bears eat one thing. They eat leaves. They eat eucalyptus leaves, right? And they even ferment. Like even humans, I think about humans, right? Like, my God, like if you live in Asia, right? You take rice and you ferment it and you make rice wine or whatever, right? If you're in Russia, right? You make vodka from potatoes, right? If you're in South America, you take agave and you make tequila, right? If you're in North America, you take wheat and you make whiskey. Now, why am I talking about all this? It's because every culture has their own fermented food. If you're in Indonesia, you eat tempeh, right? Koreans like kimchi. If you're Irish, you like sauerkraut. If you're in Mediterranean and you're Turkish, or if you're Greece, you eat yogurt, right? So humans, every culture across the entire world has developed their own like fermented foods, whereas koala bears, they ferment eucalyptus to get all of those 20 amino acids that you need, right? Humans, we can, and also humans, like, you can't eat chicken, you eat beef. If you can't eat beef, you eat fish. We just swap out a resource for one other. What makes humans just makes humans different, right? So this is one evolutionary pattern. You see it throughout all animals. So you either see an extensive gut or you see an extensive brain, one or the other, right? Large brain or large gut. That's one evolutionary pattern. Another evolutionary pattern is symmetry. So symmetry basically means there is no symmetry. So you cannot take an organism and divide it in any way. So let's take a starfish. If you take a starfish, how many ways can you slice a starfish? You can slice it this way, you can slice it this way, okay? I should have had another arm, but the arm here, you can slice it that way. So we have, there's three kinds of symmetry. There's no symmetry. Then there's radial, so a starfish is radial symmetry. And then another pattern is bilateral. So humans, like dogs, cats, humans, you can only slice us, you can only cut it one way. So this is another pattern. So no symmetry came first, radial symmetry came second, bilateral came third. That's another pattern of evolution. Another pattern of evolution is embryology. So you start with one cell. One cell is the zygote. So zygote is the one cell, right? Now, that divides and becomes two cells. And then you have 4, and then you have 8, 16, 32, 64, 128. That's a magic number. Remember this, 128. The 128 cell of any organism is called a blastocyst. This is also evidence for evolution. Every single organism that's multicellular, not single-celled, multicellular organisms, every single thing forms this 128 cell blastocyst. So basically, it's a sphere with a bunch of cells right here, right? And there's a bunch of cells that make a sphere. So it's basically a ball with a bunch of cells in the middle. These group of cells are called the germ layers. So there's 3 germ layers, not germ like a bacteria, like there's 3 germ layers. One germ layer becomes the heart, and think about circulatory system. Another is the brain. Okay, that's the other brain nervous system. And the third germ layer is the gut. So this is our digestive tract, right? So these 3 germ layers exist in every single organism, multicellular, fish, amphibians, whatever, right? So then we can break this down further. So another example from this is like the heart, right? So you have 2-chamber hearts, you have 3-chamber, and you have 4-chamber. So the evolution of the heart is also another example of how this 3 germ layers work, right? So we have, let me see here. So like a 3-chambered heart. So 3-chambered heart this might be like amphibian or like a turtle. These are examples that have 3-chambered hearts. I believe fish is an example of, let me make sure here. Yes, so 2-chamber would be a fish. So 2-chamber is a fish, 3-chamber is amphibian, turtles, and 4-chamber you start getting into like mammals. This is also just say reptiles. And this is the 4-chamber heart is mammals. So these are like, so let's go all the way back up. So what do we have here? We have 3 patterns. We have 3 patterns here. Your gut, your brain, your symmetry, and your 3 germ layers. These are 3 evolutionary patterns that are across all evolution. This helps me memorize stuff. This is not explicit in the syllabus, it's implied. Okay, so it's not explicit. So don't worry about, like, this will just help you memorize stuff, and will help you connect the dots together. So that's how I start with. That's how I think about evolution in a nutshell. Now, do not, just like in genetics, don't say traits are better or worse. Don't apply. Do not apply your opinion to things. Right. So some traits are better adapted. Some traits are less adapted. Some traits increase fit. So like, look, you can use the word adaptation. You can use the word fitness. Fitness means more babies. So a trait that increases, a trait like a better wingspan of a bird increases fitness, means it can produce more offspring, which means its traits are passed on more often than shorter wingspan birds, and that's better adapted. So you can also say complexity or increases or decreases. I'm going to pause this and come right back. Okay, I don't know why I told you that. I went to go get a bagel sandwich that I had delivered. It's very tasty. I highly recommend Saigon Bagel. It's a good place to eat. So let's go through the syllabus now. So the first thing in the syllabus is simply naming. So I don't know if you've heard this before. Hope you have. So King Philip came over for good soup. So kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. King Philip came over for good soup. That's an easy way to remember it. You technically are supposed to know this for a plant, an animal, and a plant. So humans is Animalia, chordata. This means there's a easy way to remember is there's a spine. A chordata means you have a spine. Okay, technically it's the presence of a nocordo or like a chordata, some of that. It's like the beginning of a spine. So that's technically what it means, but chordata means spine. So it has a spine. And then you have class is Mammalia. And then we have primates. And then we have Hominidae. And this is Homo sapiens. Okay, so technically you're supposed to memorize one animal and one plant for the syllabus, although I've never seen them ask the whole thing. The exam will always use these names, so it's good to know them. Know that genus, species, it goes up in complexity. Rice, for example. Where are you? Okay, so for plants, so let's take rice. So rice would be plantae, and then kingdom. Angiosperm. Hold on. Okay, sorry. I had to check something. So plants have 4 phylums. So angiosperm, and then we have monocot, and then that's class. Order would be Poales, and then family would be Poales. Poaceae. And then genus is Orza and Sativa. So I wouldn't worry about memorizing this entire thing. They've never asked for it in the history of the exam. But what they will ask is they'll ask about genus, species. So they might give you, like what they would like to do is give you a few things. Like they'll give you, okay, here's mouse musculus. And then they'll say Canis lupus, Canis familiaris, and let's use Drosophila melanogaster. I don't know how to spell it, so I'm not going to try. Okay, so this is mouse musculus is a mouse. This is a fruit fly. Fruit fly. This is a wolf, and this is a dog. And they'll ask you, which ones are more similar? Well, obviously, if you have the same genus and the same species name, these two are more similar than a mouse or a fruit fly. So, common names to know that they might use, like obviously, okay, so Canis is dog. You know, they like to use rice, so it's good to know what rice is, okay? None of this needs to be memorized. You should, Homo sapien, obviously. And make sure, I'm doing it bad. Okay, Okay, start over. Always lowercase. So, Canis lupus. Do not write, on any report, do not ever write out don't always uppercase, lowercase, okay? Homo sapiens. You can also short that to C.lupus. And you can dot that to H. sapiens. Okay. They like to talk about this as nature of science because this is international. So everywhere around the world, a dog is named canine lupus. Wolf is canine lupus. So it's international cooperation in naming animals and plants, and so it's universal. So it's an example of nature of science, how scientists work together. So they like to ask that as well. Okay, so that's naming culture. Okay, Drosophila melanogaster, Drosophila, Drosophila melanogaster. That's the fruit fly. What else am I? Okay, that's kind of it. That's some examples. Okay. Okay, so that's the first part. That's the naming culture in 5.3. Okay, so now we get into classification. So there's 3 domains. There's archaea, eukarya, and bacteria, and you can call that EU bacteria for true bacteria. All of these fall under. Okay, domain is larger than kingdom. Okay. In your notebook, there's 3 tables. I put this in here. So there's a table so you have archaea, eukarya, and bacteria. These are the 3 domains. So under eukarya, you have 5 kingdoms. It used to be 6 kingdoms, and they made this used to be 1 kingdom, and they made it domains. So eukarya, we have plantae, we have animalia, we have fungi, and we have protista. These are the 4 kingdoms under eukarya, all right? Archaea have their own branch, bacteria have their own branch. Okay, these three, what's important to know is that we don't really know which one came first. Now, obviously, okay, so the eukarya has a nucleus. Okay? Now, what's interesting is that the DNA in archaea is more similar to the DNA in eukarya, but the cell membrane of archaea is more similar to the membrane of a bacteria. So like archaea and eukarya, so evidence for how they evolved. So look, archaea and prokarya, both of these have histones in their DNA. Okay? Eukarya, their DNA have introns, whereas archaea, that's sometimes they have introns, where introns in eukarya are frequent. Okay? And in bacteria, there's no introns. Okay? The histones are present in both archaea and eukarya, but they're not present in bacteria. All right, and then you look at the cell wall. So the cell wall of a bacteria is made of peptidoglycan. Peptidoglycan. Okay? Now, this is only for bacteria. It is not present in archaea or eukarya. Okay? And then the last thing is the cell membrane. So the cell membrane, it can be made of the D form or the L form of glycerol. Now, remember I said archaea bacteria are more similar? So archaea and bacteria, they have the D form. These two have the D form, but the eukarya has the L form of glycerol. Now, what's the L form, D form of glycerol? Now, let's go back to topic 2. Glycerol is CCC, HHOH. All molecules have a D form or L form. It's basically a mirror image. So D form is a mirror image of L form and so on. It's because of the chirality of carbon, and carbon can flip and turn around like a mirror. Like if you look in the mirror, it looks opposite, right? So that's the L form, D form. So the eukarya cell membrane is its own thing. The bacteria cell wall the cell wall is made of peptidoglycan. That's only in bacteria. The cell membrane of an archaea is closer to a bacteria, but the DNA of archaea is closer to eukarya. So they could ask you, like, what is the evidence? Like, evaluate the evidence for the three domains? Like, the fact that archaea and eukarya have similar DNA shows they're more closely aligned. But then the fact that bacteria and archaea have the similar membrane, they're more closer aligned. So that's the three domains. Under the domains, we have plant, animal, fungi, protista. Now, you need to know in the plant, there are three. So what's after a kingdom? We have, so all the way back to here. So before kingdom, we have domain, domain, D-O-M-A-I-N. So kingdom, phylum, class, order. So under plants, we have 3 phylum. We have Angiospermaphyta. We have Felicina. Oh, sorry. In order. Okay. We have Bryophyta. We have Thylacynophyta. We have Conifera phyta, and we have Conifera phyta, and then we have Angiosperm phyta. Okay, so what are these? This is moss lichen. Okay? These are ferns. These are pine trees. And these are flowers. Okay? Now, there's more than just these. This is the simplest way for me to think about it. These are the examples of plants in each of these phylum. And the way to map this out on a cladogram. So we start with down here. Now, basically, this is like the first plant. So let's just start with, this is plants, okay? So first thing that evolved, so over here, somewhere around here, this is where the bryophytes split. They split over here. And now the trait that made them split was vascular tissue. Now, vascular tissue means tubes, xylem, phloem. Then the next split, after vascular tissue evolved, then we got the Thylacinophyta. The next big adaptation, the next big evolutionary step was seeds. So seeds evolved. And then you got your Conifera phyta. And then after that, you have your flowers evolved. And from there, you get your angiosperm. Oh, sorry, not I'm recording. All right, and then you have angiospermophyta. So, if you look at a plant and it does not make seeds, then it has to be a Thylacinophyta or a Bryophyta. If you look at a fern, ferns make spores. They don't have seeds. So bryophytes, there's no, like a moss or a lichen, there's no vascular tissue. There's no roots. Other examples of bryophytes besides moss is hornworts and liverworts. These are examples of bryophytes. Okay, Thylacinophytes, these are your ferns. They have roots, they can have leaves, they're non-woody, and they make spores. And then you have your Conifera phyta. These are your shrubs and trees. So trees there's roots, they're woody, they have leaves, and they make seeds. So these are your shrubs and trees. And then angiospermophyta, these are your flowers. Okay? All right. That's it. Okay? There's 4 tables in your OneNote that I copy and pasted from your book that kind of go through all this. Okay, then you have to know invertebrates, and you have to know, so now we get to animal phyla. There's a bunch of animal phyla. So you need to know, so there's Porifera. These are your sponges. Okay, you have Cnidaria. These are your coral and jellyfish. You have your Platyhelminthes. And these are your flatworms. Then you have your Annelida. These are your roundworms. And then you have your mollusks, which are oysters, snails, octopus, okay? And then you have your chordata, right? And these are going to be your fish, birds, mammals, okay? Now, this goes in order. So, we're going this way, okay? In evolution. So, remember I said my 3 trends, right? Look at my 3 trends. There is back to my original thing, right? There's 3 different patterns, right? There's the gut, the symmetry, and then there is the 3 germ layers, right? So if you look at the order of these 3 things, right? So Porifera, these guys, if you take symmetry, there's no symmetry. No symmetry, okay? Coral, jellyfish, they're radial, okay? Then Platyhelminthes worms, these are bilateral. You don't go backwards. Everything after Platyhelminthes is going to be bilateral, going down, okay? Another pattern is segmentation. So, segmentation means thorax, head, limbs. So, that's segmentation. And this comes from the 3 germ layers I mentioned, right? So segmentation, right? Sponges, none. Cnidaria, none. Flatworms, no segments. Annelida, now we have segmentation, okay? Mollusks, there's none, okay? We forgot arthropod in here, sorry. Okay, sorry, arthropod should be here. So arthropod's right there, okay? So arthropod is also bilateral, okay? So what's arthropod, right? These are your ants, scorpions, lobster, crab, okay? All right, so segmentation. So arthropod, very segmented. Chordata, you're segmented. Okay, mollusks have it, but it's non-visible. So you can't. They have segmentation. It happens in the embryo. Okay, so it's non-visible, but they're segmented. So everything is segmented after Annelida. So another pattern in evolution is you have symmetry, right? None, radial, bilateral. Segmentation, none, yes. Okay? Then the next pattern is the gut, right? Okay, so Ponifera, no mouth, no anus, right? Cnidaria, these guys have a mouth. Platyhelminthes, these guys have a mouth. Now, Annelida, right? From Annelida here, mouth plus anus, all the way down. Right? So this is where, remember, I keep saying you're a tube. You are a tube, right? Everything from roundworm down, everything here has the same structure for the gut. There is a tube. You have a mouth, you have an anus, right? Before that, it was just a mouth. A sponge doesn't have a mouth or an anus. So you see these things become more and more complex, okay? So these are the 3 trends in evolution I'm talking about in the beginning of class. Right? You have symmetry, you have segmentation, you have the gut. These are all trends. These are help to memorize the differences, right? Now, the last step is when you get to, so after chordata, from chordata, you also have to know from the chordata, right? You have mammals, you have birds, you have reptiles, and you have amphibians, right? So, what makes a mammal a mammal? Well, they make milk, and they have hair, and they have lungs with alveoli, and they have 4 limbs. Birds, they have 4 limbs, but they have 2 wings, and their lungs are different, and they lay eggs, right? So you need to know the difference between mammals, birds, reptiles, and amphibians, okay? Best thing to do is go watch those, go watch the True Facts videos, watch all of them, take notes. this is a make flashcards, but you should be able to describe, you should be able to explain what you should be able to define what a bird is, right? Birds lay eggs. Mammals give live birth. Mammals are only things that give live birth, right? Everything else, like reptiles, amphibians, birds, they all lay eggs. Another pattern that's not visible in the syllabus is eggs. So like humans, like if you think about humans, right? We make one egg and we have one birth, right? And that will take care of it, right? So, but like fish will lay 10,000 eggs, or plants. Plants will lay 100,000, will disperse 100,000 seeds, right? But only a few of them will root and become plants. So there's a difference also between number of offspring, right? So things that are less complex release more eggs and make more offspring. So like a fish or even like a dog. A dog will lay 3. Dogs or wolves will have 3 or 4 pups, and because usually 1 or 2 will be a runt and die. In the wild, they would die off, and some would survive. For mammals, there's a rule, right? For mammals, if you have 2 nipples, you have 1 offspring. So humans, the average offspring for a human is 1 offspring because we have 2 nipples. So for a dog, I think dogs have 6 nipples. So I think dogs have 6 nipples, right? Maybe 8. I'm not sure. No, I think it's 6, right? And so the average offspring for a dog is 3 because it's half the number of nipples. Okay, there's always in evolution. There's always exceptions. Platypus. There are some mammals that lay eggs. There's I think the platypus lays eggs, and they don't have nipples, so they still make milk. So there's always like these weird. This is again more evidence for evolution, right? There's all these extra transitional species in between that are kind of like half mammal, half reptile, whatever, right? Think about frogs, right? How they become a tadpole and have gills and have lungs. So there's this transition, just like there's transition fossils, there's transition species. Okay, that's almost 40 minutes, so we're going to stop here. Good luck.